Hey, I'm athletes Larry Sorensen here, and today I am talking with Tracy Gariepy to find out what makes her an autumn athlete that's not done yet. But before we do, please remember, if you like the content that we provide, like, subscribe, and ding that bell for notifications. All right, let's get into this. Tracy, why don't you give us your bio basics?
Sure. First of all, Larry, thanks for having me. Tracy Gariepy, as you said, I'm 46 years old. I live in South Carolina. I am a mother of three grown children and one new grandbaby. So super excited about that. I have a few things that I'm kind of like not done yet about. I'm recently engaged, so I'm getting married soon. What else should you know about me? I am 5'2", about 130 pounds. Really, the most interesting thing about me, I guess, is that I'm an amputee. I recently lost my right leg. So, physically, that's probably the most interesting thing that you'll notice about me.
Well, we're going to get into that in just a little while, but first, let's take a step back and tell us a little bit about your fitness history.
So the interesting thing is I'm a very competitive athlete now, but I didn't start out that way. I was not athletic as a child. I grew up on a horse farm, so I had a horse. I guess I was active, but you wouldn't really call me an athlete. The last one picked in gym class. I didn't play any high school sports or anything like that. I got into athletics in my 30s. I worked a job where I was just very active and I lost a lot of weight and I enjoyed being fit and feeling healthy and feeling good about myself. So I started taking an aerobics class. And it didn't take long in that aerobics class before I started feeling like, man, I don't want to take the class. I want to teach the class. So I became an instructor. I bought my own aerobics studio. And then from there, got interested in running. So I think probably because I didn't play team sports as a kid, running really resonated with me because it was an individual sport and something that I could just kind of work on my own. So I started running. I got very competitive in the running industry, if you will. I went into marathons and ultra marathons. So I've qualified for the Boston Marathon quite a few times. And I've run some pretty serious distances. I think the longest distance that I ran was not a race, just a self-supported run. I ran 300 miles from Concord, North Carolina to Savannah, Georgia. I was raising money for a cause that I really care about called Girls on the Run. So that was maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Um, Running started to tear down my body a little bit. It can take a toll on you. So I backed off on that a little and got more into strength training and building my muscles, and then started competing in bodybuilding. So I have done pretty well in that as an adult also. I have won a number of titles and qualified for nationals. I've been to nationals quite a few times, and that's really what got me into my 40s was running and bodybuilding.
Prior to the big setback here, did you have any other setbacks through your fitness journey?
I would say time and money really are the two things that I wouldn't call them setbacks. I didn't have any major injuries, but I was very ambitious. And if I could have devoted more time or devoted more financial resources to either of those sports, I would have. It's probably a good thing that I didn't have unlimited time and money. I might have gone a little bit overboard there. But no, up until recently, I've been very fortunate. I didn't really have major injuries or anything that kept me from chasing my dreams.
I don't want to call it a setback because where you are right now, it doesn't seem like a setback at all. But tell us what happened.
Yeah, it felt like a setback. That's okay. We can call it that. So I also coach running, and I was coaching a Couch to 5K group at my local YMCA about 2 years ago. And just, I was silly. I wasn't really thinking. I sent them off on a hard training run, and I decided to join them, and I hadn't warmed up myself. And so I took off with cold, tight muscles and just felt something go in my knee and tried to run through it. But after a few days, maybe a few weeks, I realized, man, my knee is just not right. So I had it looked at. It was a small tear in my meniscus and a little bit of damage to the ligaments around my knee, pretty minor. And so we decided this was an easy surgery to fix. I went in day surgery. We expected I'd be back to running in just a few weeks after that. And for 99.9% of the population, that would have been the case. It would have been a very easy fix. Not really the case for me. I came out of that surgery and started to transition back into running, and we realized that it wasn't quite, something still didn't feel right. So we scoped it again, did some more MRIs and imaging, and found that for some reason the damage was just continuing to progress. More ligaments torn. My meniscus was torn quite a bit more. Shredded was a word that they used. I shredded my meniscus and tore, ACL, PCL, LCL, a lot of the ligaments around my knee. So more surgeries to fix that. But something was just causing my knee to continue to go downhill. We finally thought maybe it's an alignment issue. Maybe I just, biomechanics, the way the bones come into my knee, maybe just a misalignment that's causing this damage to progress. So we did a pretty aggressive surgery called a high tibial osteotomy, which is you purposely break the lower leg bone, the tibia, to change the way that it aligns and comes into your knee. We did that osteotomy. There's a plate and screws that then hold that bone into the new position. Shortly after I recovered from that and was rehabbing and getting back into running, more pain. We found out that the plate and the screws had broken. My tibia had shattered more. We went back into surgery, more plate, more screws. There was hardware stuck in my tibia that we couldn't get out from the original surgery. And then the last straw was that I developed a rare bone infection that got stuck underneath the hardware that was in my leg. And some of these screws that were stuck in my tibia, we couldn't get out. And the infection was really just kind of buried under those screws. Sometimes these infections like to stick to metal. So with the bone infection and a bone that wasn't healing and a lot of metal in my body, I had a few choices of what do I want to do. One was almost a lifetime of surgeries to continue to address this. One was to live a much more sedentary lifestyle because we knew I'd be in pain for a long time. And the third option was to amputate my leg and just kind of get rid of the problem. Believe it or not, to me, it was a no-brainer. I said amputate. I know that I can get back to doing what I love to do with a prosthetic leg, or find a way to modify to get back to doing what I love to do. It was really the only option out of the three. It was the only one that would allow me the opportunity to get really active again. So that's what we went with. So I am now an amputee.
Well, that's quite an amazing story, to say the least. So we're going to get into your training and what you're doing now. But first, I want to ask you, are you preparing for any up and coming events? Obviously, we all know you're a competitive runner, competitive bodybuilder. So are there any plans to compete at anything in the near future?
Yes. So bodybuilding is probably where I can still be the most competitive. So I actually competed twice since my surgery. I lost my leg in May. I've done two bodybuilding competitions since then and qualified for nationals again. So nationals is really my A game. That is July of 2024 up in Pittsburgh. So I intend to be there and to do my best and compete as a female bodybuilder. I'm also trying to get back into running. Right now, it's nothing like running. It's walking, and it's the slowest walking you can possibly imagine. So I've done a few 5Ks. I'm the last finisher, even among the walkers, but I do have a couple of half marathons that I very ambitiously booked. We'll see. They're coming up next month. I'll at least toe the start line. I don't know if I'll finish, but I'll do the best that I can.
I know you just came off, I guess I'll call it a camp. To help you and others learn how to use their prosthetics and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about how that camp went? And then, you talk about doing these walks. Are you able to walk on your prosthetic? Do you need a crutch or a cane still, or have you gotten to that point where you can maneuver on your own?
The two kind of go together, your question about the camp and my ability to walk, because I can now walk on my prosthetic leg without using a cane or a walker or walking sticks. I was using hiking poles for a long time. I'm able to do that without any of those apparatuses, if you will. And I think it's because of this training camp that I'm at. So I have to give them a little plug. They're called Adaptive Training Foundation, ATF. And this is an organization down in Dallas, Texas, that works with amputees, spinal cord injury athletes, people with neurological impairments. They allow us to come down. They give us training for whatever sport we're passionate about. So for me, running and bodybuilding. So they worked with me on strength training, and they worked with me on mobility and flexibility and stability on this leg. I can't say enough good things about it. I think I'm a better athlete for it. And it was 8 days that just kind of catapulted me into being a much more functional athlete.
So I'm going to segue into then, what is your training regimen right now?
It's pretty intense. So I'm working out anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a day. I try to do both cardio and strength training because I love the running and the bodybuilding, which the two don't always go together. So I have to work on both of them. I either walk or cycle or get on the rower for somewhere like we'll say 45 minutes a day, but today it was an hour and a half. I walked for an hour and a half today. And then I also get into the gym and I'm lifting, and it's 45 minutes to an hour and a half of lifting as well. I do both of those 6 times a week. I try to take one rest day, but other than that, I'm working out quite a bit.
So what would you say is your favorite training exercise at this point?
Um, Lateral raises. I'm a little bit biased. I love working my shoulders, so anything where I can get those deltoids to get bigger, that's going to be my go-to.
The fitness training is one half of it, the physical fitness training. The other half, certainly as a bodybuilder, but as any sport, the diet and nutrition is a key to fueling the motor and really excelling. So tell us a little bit about your approach to diet and nutrition.
If I'm prepping for a competition, it's very strict. I know exactly what I can eat for fats, for carbohydrates, for proteins, and I'm weighing and measuring everything. That's only about 8 to 12 weeks before a competition. Outside of that, I'm still cognizant of all those three things: carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but a little bit more flexible. I don't necessarily weigh and measure everything. I try to eat as clean as possible, so I avoid the processed foods and the sugars, but I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we go out and enjoy a good meal every now and then. Like, I'm human. We have to be able to just let loose every once in a while.
When you do go let loose, give us your cheat meal or cheat dessert that you go to.
Pizza and ice cream. If that was my cheat meal every time, I'd be a happy girl. I don't ever have to stray from that.
What motivates you to keep going today?
My philosophy on motivation is that it's fleeting. We don't stay motivated. So if you're really passionate about something, it's more discipline than motivation. You can listen to a motivational speech or pin a quote on your social media that motivates you to get out there that day, but the next day and the next day and the next day, it can get monotonous, so it's more dedication than motivation.
Would you have done anything differently along the way in your fitness journey?
That's a great question. I wish I had started earlier. I was very self-conscious, I think, for a long time. It's tough. It's tough to be an adolescent and a teenager, and kids can be hard on you. And so I was always just too afraid to try, too afraid to go out for a sport, too afraid to get out there and try something that I didn't know if I'd be good at or not. So that's my only regret, is that now I'm not afraid to try anything. And I wish that if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would have said, like, girl, just get out there and do it.
What's your secret sauce to health and fitness?
I don't know that there is a secret sauce to it other than consistency. You've got to just stick with it every day, be driven, be consistent about it. There's so many different ways that you can look at this, but if you think of, a tree starts from a tiny little seed, and you're not going to see that tree for months or years, maybe. It takes a lot of watering, it takes a lot of tending, it takes a lot of time and effort put into something where you're not going to see results right away. But if you do keep up with it right away, eventually you do get this massive, amazing tree. So that's the metaphor that I can give you, is tend to something, be consistent with it, and don't lose your drive, even though you might not see results right away. They'll come.
You're a great athlete. You have this kind of weird thing happen. What got you through that mentally? Were you bitter? Are you still a little bitter? Because you just have a great attitude, and obviously you are not done yet. I mean, you're the epitome of not done yet. But I know my audience and myself is wondering, because this was, and I don't know if we mentioned it, this just happened, 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's new.
Very new.
How are you smiling, and just everything is like you're so forward looking, like I'm going here, let's go. It's not just, well, I'm just trying to recover. It's 6 months later after this, you're going forward and moving. I mean, what got you through all that, and was there anything, I mean, philosophically, spiritually, people in your life, I don't know, whatever that might be, What do you say to that?
Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of things. Definitely the people in my life. My fiance is, man, he's my rock. I mean, I wouldn't be half the person that I was if I didn't have his love and support, and my friends and other amputees that I've connected with that prior to my surgery kind of were able to give me a little bit of what to expect and all of that. But the bottom line is this was my choice. I did become an athlete kind of late in life, but I am so passionate about it. And I was faced with a choice of, Tracy, what are you going to do with this injury in order to be the athlete that you want to be? And I chose amputation. So knowing that I went into this being my choice, I actually had to advocate for it and kind of push for it to happen. Um, Being able to do that, it was so that I could be as active as possible. So as soon as I woke up from that surgery, all I wanted to do was get back to sports and fitness and living the healthiest life that I can live. So that got me through it. I came home from the hospital the day after my surgery, and I went to the gym the day after that. You know, with no leg, no prosthetic, all bandaged up, and I drove myself to the gym, and I was just so grateful. I actually felt in some ways pain-free, you know, all of the infection and everything that was causing me a lot of pain was gone. So I felt a lot healthier. And I felt like I'm free. I'm able to move forward now. I had 2 years of surgeries, not knowing what's the next step, what's going to happen, what's going to happen when I wake up, am I going to be better, am I going to be worse? And now after amputating my leg, I'm like, this is it. This is pretty final. You know, you can't sew the leg back on. You kind of know what your life looks like from here on out. And so I was able to just take charge and jump into it. Definitely being active and eating healthy and feeling like I could start to move forward with my life is what kept me positive. And setting a goal. So I jumped right back into bodybuilding competitions. I had a goal. I knew where I wanted to be 8 weeks from that day of surgery, and that was on stage again. And so I had a reason to get up and go to the gym. I had a reason to eat healthy. I had a reason to stay positive, because if I let myself get wrapped up in a poor me syndrome, I was not going to be my best self on stage.
What an amazing story. Tracy Gariepy, she is definitely an autumn athlete that is not done yet. We're going to close today with just giving her the floor to give us some final thoughts.
Sometimes you look at elite athletes and it's easy to say, well, I couldn't be like that person. You know, I don't have the resources they have. I don't have the muscles they have. I'm not a skilled runner. I don't care. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're doing. If you get off the couch and you go to the gym and you do something, if you walk down to your mailbox every day to get some fresh air every day, if you're doing anything to be active or to change your life for the better or to be healthier, I'm cheering for you. And, you know, kudos to you. So this isn't always about elite athletes. This is just about each individual person finding a way to live their best life. And if you're out there doing that for yourself, then, you know, pat on the back to you, because you're a step ahead of the game.
There you have it, autumn athletes. Tracy Gariepy, truly an autumn athlete that's not done yet. So Tracy, I want to give you the opportunity to talk one more time just about the organization that really helped you to get back up and running. And so I'll give you the floor to just tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. So I just have to give a plug to Adaptive Training Foundation, ATF, or adaptivetrainingfoundation.org. They are such a phenomenal organization, completely nonprofit, so funded by donations from major organizations, but also individuals. So if it's anything that athletes are interested in supporting, I would love for them to just check out the website. Or if you're an adaptive athlete yourself, like I said, amputee, some sort of injury, anything that causes a permanent limitation and affects your daily living or affects your ability to work out, reach out to them, because they are just so supportive, so helpful, and so knowledgeable. So I think that they have really impacted my own ability to be such a strong athlete and to learn and to grow. So I would love to see others benefit from their resources as well.
If you'd like to support that organization or find out more about it, I'll put a link in the description below. All right, folks, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time.